Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Jeff Risley, who's the Chief Growth Officer at Saxum. Jeff, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Mike. Great to be here. I appreciate it very much.
You are welcome. So I'm excited to talk to you because I know we want to talk about a couple really big topics, and we probably need about 4.5 hours to go through these, but we'll kind of fit it into our little window here of a podcast interview. But we'll talk about conscious capitalism and revenue marketing. So I really want to jump into that, but give us a little bit of your background and then what you do there at Saxum.
You bet, Mike. So I've been in marketing and communications about 30 years, had a chance to do it for B2B brands and B2C, agencies and corporate side. So I've got to experience a lot in this space, which is wonderful. And my role currently as Chief Growth Officer is to really eat our own cooking at Saxum. I am in charge of growing our agency, both from a marketing and sales perspective. So Saxum is my sole client.
Oh, got it. Good. And it's interesting when you said B2B, B2C, what do you think about H to H? I've heard this kind of as like a tongue-in-cheek, but hey, we can talk about business to business. We can talk about business to consumer, but how about human to human? Because when it gets down to it, marketing is about relationships. It's about talking to humans and interacting and providing value. So I think that's just a neat mindset to keep in mind.
Totally like that. Yes. And it is a good reminder that at the end of the day, no matter what we're doing, we're dealing with a human being on the other end of it. So I love that.
Yeah, that's really huge. So you guys talk about obsessed for good. Talk a little bit about your agency mantra.
Yeah, so obsessed for good for us means that we're here to do more than just make money. And we're here to help clients that want to do more than just make money. Our goal is really to help our clients make meaningful and measurable change in whatever market they're in. Ultimately, the business of today is at a much higher bar to meet. The expectations of consumers and buyers is that, hey, you're not just in it to make a dollar, you're in it to help your community, to help your employees, help all kinds of stakeholders. And so we've been that way a long time at Saxum. We just decided, hey, we want to talk about it very specifically now.
Yeah. Well, and not only just merely talk about it, but put a kind of a slogan behind it, obsess for good, and then B, make sure that we actually implement it and make it more than just the mantra that sits on our plaque or our website.
Yeah, it's a great point. We have a very specific charge, internally to say, look, we have to tell our story and live our story. And so we very much live our story of Obsessed for Good. We're members of the UN Global Compact, and we subscribe to, their principles. We're contributing to 6 of their sustainable development goals. We have a very robust DEI program internally. We have a very robust liberating leadership program. So we're doing our part as well, because you're right, Mike, if you're greenwashing, you're really not doing the planet any good at all. Yeah,
it kind of goes from surface level to let's roll up the sleeves and get her done.
Exactly. And we're trying to help our clients think that way as well. I mean, you mentioned at the outset here, I think, the conscious capitalism and the movement that is happening in business today that's been around for a while now, really taking hold. And beyond just, words, I think you've got real meat behind it today.
Well, I like if you really want to dissect the words conscious capitalism, and then tie it into CSR, corporate social responsibility, or, social good, some of those things, without, getting, specific, it does go from, well, social good and corporate, so that's like, oh, let me write a check to this organization, or let's go volunteer to, nothing wrong with those things. But in reality, conscious capitalism means capitalism, you got to make a buck or two. You got to keep the doors open. You got to pay the bills. You got to pay the employees. So how can we do that while having that conscious approach to social responsibility? And it really, to me, paints that really great big word picture of what capitalism really should be, because sometimes we can point to the picture of the stories of people that are taking capitalism to the whole other realm, and it's like, wow, that's just taking advantage of people.
Yeah, I like that summary of what you said. I mean, conscious capitalists are very much still about profit. They're just trying to serve people and planet at the same time. And, there's no reason business can't be major, change makers in the world. In fact, we always have been. We just need to align that with some higher purpose. And that higher purpose generally can serve more than just the people buying from you. There's a lot of great companies out there right now that are adopting this. And we're just trying to look at it through the lens of, as marketers, we're saying, how can we help you tell that story, embrace that philosophy so that your consumers will be more loyal to you?
Yeah. Have you ever done any reading from the old, the old days, but Milton Friedman, who said social responsibility of business is to increase its profits. And a lot of time, and this is from back in 1970s range, but a lot of people like, up in arms, increase profit. Well, if you do it the right way, and the social responsibility, the conscious capitalism way, should be to increase profits, and then maybe you put ... within reason, because in reality, we don't want to increase profits at the expense of, and we don't want to do it out of balance. But if you don't increase profits or have a profit, now you're shutting the doors, and now you've impacted employees, their lives, and your economy around your business. So I think a lot of people get up in arms about a statement, and then they don't really think through and go, well, if you do it the right way, though, it could be great.
No, I think that's a good summary. And, I was at a conference where, and you're right about Milton Friedman, he really set the tone, his economic policy set the tone for the country for years, for decades. And it's only been, since the probably early 2000s that, businesses have started thinking differently. John McKay comes up with conscious capitalism. You see Davos statements at Davos changing. BlackRock Capital comes out in 2019 and talks about a very different purpose for business. The Business Roundtable does the same thing. There's this momentum toward a more conscious capitalism. And I was at a conference where the former CEO of Unilever was speaking, Paul Pullman. And he said this with all, due respect, but he said, Milton Friedman's dead. We need to move on from this and think about how business can be major change makers in the country and in the world. And that makes some CEOs uncomfortable. Yeah.
I think that rounds it out really well. So what do you guys do to help your clients solving problems for brands, and what is it that if you could boil it down into, here's a big problem that we noticed in the market, we come alongside and we help to guide and solve this?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we do all of that to answer it under the banner of Obsessed for Good. We're looking for ways that we can help you as a business make meaningful and measurable change. And on the meaningful side, one of the problems we're really helping them solve is figure out how that obsession that you have for good fits into your brand. So we use a lot of brand strategy. Our solution is called Brand Advantage, and it's helping them figure out how their unique offering combined with what they're trying to do in the world to make an impact can really tell a great story for their brand. And then to your point about, hey, you still have to make a profit, one of the other problems we really help solve is through our solution called revenue marketing, where, look, today's world, revenue is as responsible for helping to generate revenue, marketing is as responsible for having to generate revenue as sales is. Yeah. Marketers have to take that responsibility. So we show them how to scale their revenue generation and turn it into predictability, provability through a lot of technology and strategy.
And I would suspect that part of that revenue marketing, before you get into technical and software and things and automation, has to be really polishing up that messaging, right? Because if you're not clear on what that marketing message is, you can have all the technology and automations in the world, and your audience won't resonate with it.
Yeah, exactly right, Mike. It's, in fact, your brand strategy is central to a solid revenue marketing strategy. It's important to have that established, or else you're just telling a story that nobody's necessarily going to believe. But yes, that's part of it, as is knowing your audience, your buyer inside and out, better than they know themselves. We always say work backwards from the buyer, and that's a big part of the revenue marketing solution as well. And then, of course, today, technology in the MarTech stack, the marketing technology tools you're using, are critical for tying your marketing activities to actual sales. If you can't do that, there's no way you'll know where to double down, where to put your next dollar to help you generate those sales you're looking for. So that's how we're trying to help our clients, very specifically in the good place and in the profit-generating place.
Yep. And when you think about how revenue marketing works, once you have that messaging dialed in and you know your target audience better than they know themselves, and now you go, okay, now how do we communicate that message to that target audience? It's probably not a cookie cutter like next, and then here's the next company and you do the same thing, just swap out the logo. It's got to be a custom solution, right? So, I mean, you're really diving in deep with that brand and going, how could we now make this work for your organization?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The framework may be similar, and the philosophy is obviously similar, but every brand is selling to a different consumer, and you've got to know who that consumer is, whether it's B2B buyer or B2C buyer. And you're absolutely right. In today's world, that buyer expects, authenticity. They expect, a massive amount of customization and personalization. So the magic lies in figuring out what motivates those buyers and then using the right tactics to speak to them in authentic ways. And that is absolutely how, in today's world, you've got to market. It's no more spray and pray. You've got to be incredibly targeted, almost one-to-one.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, have you ever heard of a PURL, P-U-R-L, personalized URL? Have you seen a campaign like that?
Sure, absolutely. We use PURLs all the time.
Yeah. I mean, spray and pray, and then down as granular as a PURL campaign. There's a lot in between that. So what are some of the ways that you recommend making sure that a specific marketing initiative is driving the metrics that you want? Like, I'm sure tracking comes into that, right? And analytics.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we work actually with our clients to, first of all, understand what their sales goals are, and then understanding what their current data is telling them. What is their traffic to the website like, or to landing pages? How much of that traffic is converting, downloading content? How much of that is actually converting into deals? So all of that data helps us then establish key metrics that we need to try to meet with our marketing. And then we'll hone in on the places that we think we can do the most good. We're generally looking, Mike, at paid, earned, and owned all the time. Paid, earned, and owned tactics.
Yeah.
You have to work together. If you're thinking you can just do this by organic social media today, that may feel like a good thing to do, but you've got to really put earned and paid tactics to support that.
Do you feel like there's an order in paid, earned, and owned? Like, for instance, I know exactly, you feel like, let me just pay Google or Facebook to put my ad in front of the right people and think, okay, there's my paid campaign next. But earned is when you do enough good that people start noticing it, and now that you didn't pay a dime, but then owned is your content you're doing. Is there a certain order that you feel like should be approached first, and then could earned and owned one day severely diminish and reduce the need for paid?
We don't have an order. We are looking at all three of them when we're approaching a client and their campaigns. If anything, you might want to think of foundational tactics for each one before you might then amplify up to a next level. So, for example, a solid paid search campaign is always a good thing to have, and a solid, either Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn organic campaign, whichever you think your prospects will gravitate to most, and then a very solid owned campaign around making sure your website is optimized for search, and making sure you've got landing pages that speak to your audiences, and you have great content that you can offer them to help solve problems. Those are baseline before you can even move up into more complex paid earned and owned strategies.
Yeah. I don't know really the year that I remember hearing content marketing, but I know that I attribute it for some reason to Marcus Sheridan, the author Marcus Sheridan. And I say this these days, content marketing is no longer a quote unquote thing, because content marketing is just teaching and educating your audience about the solution you provide that meets their needs in a unique way. And content should be part of your marketing. You don't need to call it anything these days. Call it, think of it like content, but it should just be good marketing. And so you bring up a huge point there about good landing pages that kind of drill in deep, because when you confuse, you lose. And when people come to a website, they can get distracted with whatever that it is, these many tabs or images or videos so a landing page needs to really drill in deep to go, oh, do you ever struggle with, here's something to consider, you need to download our thing, whether it's a white paper, video, interview series, whatever that is. Is that kind of how you guys approach that aspect as well?
We do, and I think that's a fair assessment, Mike, about content marketing. It was a bigger thing at one point because it was new. Yeah. But yes, it's just a must-have now. It's the greens fees. So you have to create very targeted content now. And we always like to say, look, it needs to be about 80% about them and 20% about you. It's really got to help them more than you, or else it's not going to do the thing it's supposed to do. Yep. And it's got to match where they are in the buying cycle and in their particular persona. So we think there's more automation and simplicity in marketing today, and indeed those things have made it simpler. But boy, it's still not easy. You have to absolutely do the hard work of understanding your audience and try to be helpful to them.
Understand? Yeah. So we talked about paid. Do you want to know the number one radio station to put an ad on to get the most impact for your target audience and your product? It's a trick. I'll let you off the hook. It's a trick. WIIFM. What's in it for me? Oh, WIIFM. What's in it for me? It's just old, speaker trick. But people are like, oh, radio. Sure. No, what's in it for me? Because your audience, whether they're hearing something, seeing something, reading something, in essence, you're wanting to gain their attention every few seconds of either them reading a headline to go to the next paragraph or listening to one thing, because they're listening through the lens of what's in it for me. And when you can speak to that 80% to what they want, what's in it for them, what problems are you solving, what needs do they have, that's going to resonate with them. Not just our widget is the best because, and we have the best staff because. They don't care about that in reality.
Yeah, and it's a great point, and I'm going to steal that from you, Mike. I thought it was going to
go ahead. I stole it from the speaker and author Brian Tracy. So I'm sure that you can just Google WIIFM and you can see all kinds of references. But it really does make sense out there. You can go into your next board meeting and go, hey guys, I know we don't do much radio advertising, but we need to do a massive campaign on WIIFM, and the big bosses will go, what? We don't. Let me explain.
Yeah, very interesting.
Good. Well, let's do this, Jeff. I just love your approach and your focus and how you serve your clients. What's the best way that people can learn more about revenue marketing?
Well, they can definitely check us out at Saxum.com, but we do have a very specific landing page, so we can send people to bold.saxum.com/revenue marketing. And we have some great content there that talks about this philosophy, and I think will be helpful in understanding it.
And I will make sure that that is in the show notes. And I also will mention, you mentioned the word landing page, and I have got that site, that landing page pulled up for your revenue marketing piece. And I will tell you that it is a true landing page. And I feel like people that are in business or marketing misunderstand what landing page is, because a lot of times they'll go, oh, look, here's this landing page, and it talks about this item you can download, but then there's 14 other tabs, and this right here is very simple. Who's Saxum? How to use marketing as a revenue driver. Here's some questions. Here's a quick video. Download this ebook. That's a landing page that's concise, that's clear, and I really, really love it. So I'll make sure that that is in the show notes. You guys did a great job on that, and I really appreciate you coming on, Jeff. It's been a real pleasure talking with you today.
Well, yeah, thank you, Mike. Thanks for the compliment, and appreciate being on.
You're welcome.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.